Excellency President Akufo-Addo will join us in a minute. He has some pressing issues to take care of, given the African Development Bank annual meetings are taking place right now, and some leaders are in Accra. So he will join us in the next few minutes. But let me also address Your Excellency Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Thank you so much for joining us today at this very important moment. I also want to recognize and acknowledge Your Excellency Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, and also the Chairman of the Global Center on Adaptation. Obviously, honorable ministers here in Accra. We also have honorable ministers in Dhaka with us. What an honor it is for me moderating this event. My name is Patrick Verkooyen. I'm the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. We also are the managing partner of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. So I'm delighted to welcome you today for the CVF Handover moment. But before we go there, I just would like to say a few words to Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, because, Madam, what a source of inspiration you are, not just leading your government and your country, not just leading South Asia, but leading the world. And I recall very vividly a few Honorable Prime Minister visiting you in Dhaka when you established the Global Center on Adaptation from Bangladesh, that you said to me and to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon that the world needs three things and three things only: ambition, ambition, and ambition on climate action. And here we are today, essentially celebrating your efforts as the chairperson of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, setting us on a launch path for the Ghana presidency coming up soon. Because today may be a handover, but in essence, the way I see it, it's a forcing of joining of hands between the outgoing presidency, Bangladesh, and the incoming presidency of Ghana. And President Akufo-Addo, again, he will join us shortly, made it very clear yesterday during the opening ceremony of the African Development Bank annual meetings. He said, we are in a crisis. We're in a food crisis because of Ukraine. We're in an energy crisis because of Ukraine. We're in an inflation crisis. And on top of that, we have the climate catastrophe. We're suffering here in Africa. We're suffering in South Asia to a problem which is not caused in the global South, which needs immediate and appropriate response measures, including from the global North. And the CVF as such, the Climate Vulnerable Forum, 55 nations coming together, is such an inspiration for the world. Why? Because it is not about naming and shaming or identifying problems. No, you are looking forward. You're about partnership, you're about pragmatism, and also, Honorable Prime Minister, and what we'll hear today also from Mr. President, you are about bold action, reaching out your hands from Asia, from Latin America, from Africa, from the Pacific to the world. And again, we as GCA, we're very proud of being your support structure in delivering your agenda. Because as many of you have said, we are living in the eye of the storm on all these issues: the energy crisis, the food crisis, the water crisis, the inflation crisis, the climate crisis. They're all interconnected, and we need to address these issues in an interconnected way. We at the Global Center on Adaptation, we say we have a very stark choice to make. We either delay and pay, or we plan and we prosper. That's in essence, that's not a choice. And the Climate Vulnerable Forum doesn't take it as a choice because it is moving forward. So today we will hear first from eminent ministers about setting the scene, what has been achieved so far during the presidency of Bangladesh. So in essence, it's a retrospective, but we're also delighted to hear from the incoming presidency to have a forward look. Okay, what is now next? What are the top 3 priorities which we're going to drive together in the coming period? So I'm very humbled to give the floor to my very close friend and source of inspiration, man of action, of bold action, Your Excellency, Foreign Minister Abdul Momen. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable President, Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished colleagues, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. It gives me great pleasure
to miss.
Welcome you all to the CVF Presidency Handover Ceremony.
It's still not there. I'm looking at the technology colleagues here. We adapt in real time, so that is. So give us a minute, sir.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the CVF Presidency Handover Ceremony.
We're not there yet.
Kind presence of the Honorable President.
I'm really apologetic.
The audience is seeing it.
Oh? Yeah, I put both together. Yes. Hello? Are you listening? Patrick,
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
You can
Patrick,
listen?
do you hear?
Oh, okay.
Yes, now it's much better.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Honorable President, Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished colleagues, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the CVF Presidency Handover Ceremony. We are grateful for the kind presence of the Honorable President of Ghana and the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh for the passing of the baton. I take this opportunity to pay tribute to the memories of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and of Ghana's founding father and independence hero, President Kwame Nkrumah. Our two nations carry forward their legacies for achieving the political and economic emancipation of our peoples in societies free from colonial subjugation and exploitation. In 2019, when approached by the President of Marshall Islands, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina readily accepted to carry the CVF torch for the next 2 years. This has been the second time that our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina presided over the CVF during her 3 consecutive terms in office. CVF was still at a nascent stage during the first term of Bangladesh Presidency. It was critical to nurture it at the time so that it could gain a sure footing in the map of international climate discussions. This time, we transferred the CVF presidency with confidence that it has become a mature forum in its own right, with a unique moral and advocacy voice that the world must reckon with. During our second term, we had to defy the COVID-19 pandemic to sustain the momentum of CVF's work. It is certainly encouraging to see how much we actually achieved during the last 2.5 years. There will be a detailed presentation on those issues, which I refrain from elaborating here. Let it suffice to say that Bangladesh made the best possible efforts to uphold CVF priorities and demands within the UNFCCC process and further beyond. On the other hand, the CVF presidency bolstered the importance we attach to our own climate diplomacy. As we go through the presidency report, I am reminded of the series of regional dialogues that were held to reach towards the Dhaka-Glasgow Declaration adopted during COP26 in November 2021. Just last week, I signed off 85 letters to our development partners seeking support for the CVF and V20 joint multi-donor fund. Our visible impact-driven work led to enhancing the CVF membership from 48 countries to 55 countries. In parallel, we operated the regional office of the Global Center on Adaptation to help disseminate Bangladesh's experience as a hub for climate adaptation. We hosted in Dhaka the US President's Special Envoy on Climate Change and the COP26 President-designate, among other foreign dignitaries. Going forward, Bangladesh will continue to champion the CVF agenda on containing the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade, on tangible delivery of the Paris Agreement commitments on financing and technology, on 50-50 financing between climate mitigation and adaptation, and on additional financing mechanism for loss and damage. We shall remain a lead proponent for addressing the plight of climate migrants, the millions who get displaced due to sea level rise, floods, river erosion, and droughts. I am personally grateful to my fellow cabinet and parliamentary colleagues, our thematic ambassadors, especially Saima Wajed of Bangladesh and Speaker Mohammad Nasheed of Maldives. I'm also thankful to former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and Professor Patrick Perkosian, our Prime Minister CVF Special Envoy Abul Kalam Azad, and my colleagues at the Ministry and Bangladesh missions abroad, and of course, the able support teams at the CVF and the GCA secretariats for their unstinting cooperation in making the Bangladesh presidency successful. We all remain beholden to our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for her visionary leadership and guidance and her kind availability for any engagements related to CVF and climate action. We owe it to Honorable President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for Ghana's gracious acceptance of the CVF presidency. Our diplomatic apparatus remains at the disposal of the Ghanaian presidency during their upcoming tenure. I thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. May Bangladesh-Ghana friendship live forever.
Honorable Minister Momen, not only for your strong words, but particularly for your strong action in the last 2 years. Your leadership, your determination, your commitment, quite frankly, has been unprecedented. And I'm delighted now to give the floor to the Honorable Foreign Minister, Shirley Ayorkor-Botchway, for taking in this role today as part of the team of the chairmanship of the Climate Development Forum. Honorable Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the President of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who will be with us shortly. Excellency Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Mr. Ban Ki-moon, former UN Secretary General and board member of the Global Center on Adaptation, the GCA. Colleague Minister for Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, the Chief Executive Officer of the Global Center on Adaptation, the CVF Troika members, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and my utmost pleasure to deliver these remarks as Ghana takes over the baton for the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, CVF. The leadership of the CVF is both a privilege and responsibility of great importance. The task ahead has become more pressing, with reversals on the climate agenda due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and now the fallout from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The perfect storm of the CCC crisis, climate, COVID-19, and conflict would test our best efforts as we seek to recover from economic and other shocks and to meet our targets in this decade of action and delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we meet as the effects of climate change are being experienced in profound ways all over the world. We are all witnesses to the unusual weather patterns that threaten the lives and livelihood of people and our tireless efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. What we observe is confirmed by latest data as an indication of irreversible climate change. These are red signals, which we can no longer afford to disregard. We must adhere to the various global commitments if we are to successfully limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, as proposed by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. Like other members of this forum, Ghana is highly susceptible to climate variability and change. That has far-reaching implications for national development. The rest of the continent of Africa is similarly affected, making the continent the most vulnerable to the adverse impact of climate change within the UNFCCC. As it was highlighted at the workshop preceding this handing over ceremony, the major factors contributing to extreme poverty and hunger on the African continent include climate change and disruptions from climate variability, as well as conflicts, instability, and economic crisis. Indeed, the conflicts, instability, and economic crises are sometimes triggered or compounded by the impact of climate change. We need to make every effort to put all these issues high on the agenda for our engagement. And during Ghana's presidency, we will do so. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are convinced that the CVF is an excellent vehicle for advocating and accelerating action for the required adaptation financing of our member states to address the challenges of climate change. It has our full support. As we recognize and appreciate the great efforts made by previous leaders of the CVF, let me use this opportunity to congratulate Bangladesh on their successful tenure, during which they established the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. It is my fervent hope that the plan will serve as a shining example for all CVF members to move from vulnerability to resilience and prosperity. Distinguished guests, COP27 beckons. We must use every opportunity of the pre-COPs, the 2022 Oceans Conference, Stockholm +50, and other related meetings to gather momentum and consolidate our demands. The projection by developed countries that they are unable to meet the indicated pledge until 2023 is a matter of deep concern and disappointment. It will be 3 years late and woefully inadequate. The grim picture painted by the most recent IPCC report should spur us on to push in every way possible for the delivery of the promise of $100 billion a year United States dollars to help poorer countries deal with climate change. Finally, in view of the urgency of achieving the aspirations of our group of climate vulnerable countries, Ghana takes its leadership of the CVSF at this time very seriously. We look forward to working closely with the Troika and the membership of the CVF towards the realization of the set objectives of the forum. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Minister, for your strong words and strong commitment, also driving this agenda forward, and also reminding us that climate and development, in fact, they're the same, it's the same agenda. Also reminding us there's not just a moral imperative to act, which there is, but there's also an economic imperative to act, because it makes economic sense to invest in climate action, including climate adaptation. It's good for our health, it's good for our economy, and it's good for nature indeed. So let us now look back briefly, as it is, to what the CVF presidency has done in the last 2 years, which is a lot. I mean, Honorable Foreign Minister Momen already referenced it. And we're going to hear briefly from Special Envoy Mr. Azad, who is the Special Envoy on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to give us an overview of some of the accomplishments of the CVF in the last 2 years. Azad, the floor is yours.
His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Honorable Prime Minister of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, dear Excellencies, good evening from Bangladesh. Keeping very high respect to Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the nation, and 3 million martyrs, I start my presentation.
But we see a slide. We see you on the screen.
Allow me, please,
We cannot hear you
Excellencies,
yet.
to share the highlights of Climate Vulnerable Forum Presidency of Bangladesh. CVF Presidency of Bangladesh, led by our Honorable Prime Minister, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina. It started its journey in June 2020, supported by Honorable Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance and Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The Bangladesh Presidency of CVF appointed 5 global experts and distinguished individuals as thematic ambassadors. In 2 slides, you will see some highlights on thematic ambassadors' activity. With their charismatic role and dedication, they raised the issues related to vulnerabilities in different forums. You're seeing in this slide. In line with the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature goal, the CVF President called for enhanced targets to all the nations. Some 70 nations answered the call in the single largest formal increase in ambition under the Paris Agreement since 2015. CVF created a barometer of increased NDC. A new initiative, Global Parliamentary Group, was launched in October 2021. This group desired to examine the new bills with climate microscope, also examine the old laws of their country. This CVF Multi-Donor Fund, this is a fund for South-South cooperation, enhanced capacities in adaptation and mitigation. This new initiative, we hope, will be able to collect bigger fund to combat vulnerabilities. New members, we have 7 new members in Climate Vulnerable Forum, now representing 1.4 billion people and many more in the pipeline. In the first Climate Vulnerable Finance Summit, we demanded a joint delivery plan from the developed nations for 500 billion in 5 years, from 2020 to 24, with 50-50 balance between adaptation and mitigation. The Dhaka-Glasgow Declaration during COP26, along with others, urged for enhanced NDC for 1.5 and taking forward all climate agenda to COP27 and beyond. You see more highlights. 4 regional dialogue we had across Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, the Middle East and the Pacific, along with many other activities like carbon pricing, renewables, joint programs in CHOGM, and ensure resilience. In more highlights, joint support from our permanent missions in Geneva, London, and New York brought an eventful presidency despite the COVID pandemic realities. Climate Prosperity Plan. Please bring the previous slide. Climate Prosperity Plan. In July 2021, Honorable Prime Minister, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina declared Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan in honor of the birth centenary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Following the Mujib Plan, 37 CVF countries, including Bangladesh, expressed interest to prepare their climate prosperity plan basing on their needs. CPP partners. This slide, these partners supporting the climate prosperity plan. Bangladesh will always stand ready to support the Ghana presidency to continue shifting the reality of vulnerability into a momentum of resilience and a future to be accomplished with prosperity. It's a vote of thanks. Small secretariat of CVF and GCA provided their relentless service. I thank each of them for their efficient and effective role with wholehearted support during our presidency. Special thanks to CEO of GCA, Patrick Verkuizen, for his relentless support. Thank you all for hearing me. Let us commit to render meaningful services to keep the world at least a little better than we found it. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Azad, for this extraordinary, comprehensive presentation. I mean, we know how much your Honorable Prime Minister has led this agenda. We know how impactful your achievements has been, but also you, Azad, you have worked on this day and night, 7 days a week. You are always driving this agenda, and you made clear to all of us and our team members led by Matthew McKinnon, that's not just advocacy, it's about eventually action on the ground, the combination of advocacy with action. And I think that's a strong testimony for your role in this, Azad. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for your friendship. So let us look at a brief video being prepared by the CVF Bangladesh Presidency, capturing sort of the key highlights of some of the achievements of the last 2 years. So let's look at the video. We have 2 videos in a row. Let's go for the first one.
After 2 years of leading the CVF, Bangladesh's presidency draws to a close. Here are the highlights from Bangladesh's tenure at the helm of the CVF. In 2020, we held a virtual CVF leaders event at the UN General Assembly to highlight the urgency for countries to deliver on the 1.5 degrees Celsius pledge of the Paris Agreement. This culminated in the midnight survival deadline for the climate, calling for all countries to improve their climate targets before midnight on the 31st of December 2020. As a result, some 70 nations responded and strengthened their targets, the most significant move to raise climate ambition since 2015. We appointed our first CVF thematic ambassadors: ambition, culture, parliaments, renewable energy, and vulnerability, to galvanise awareness of climate vulnerability and action to address it. And we created the CVF V20 Joint Multi-Donor Fund to support members in their climate action and efforts to drive global ambition. In 2021, we built on the progress of 2020. Our Dhaka-Glasgow Declaration brought urgency to COP26. We inducted 7 new members to form a coalition of now 55 nations, demanding that high-emitting countries renew their commitment to the 1.5 degrees Celsius pledge and raise their climate ambition every single year. We requested a delivery plan for the annual $100 billion in climate finance and secured a pledge to double finance for climate adaptation by 2025. In 2021, we also spearheaded the CVF Global Parliamentary Group to help legislators across the Global South work together to combat climate change. We worked within the UN Human Rights Council to create a new Special Rapporteur on human rights and climate change to protect the right to life of people living in vulnerable nations. In July, the first Climate Vulnerables Finance Summit created new momentum on economic and financial solutions for a just and resilient climate recovery. To amplify the impact of nature-based climate solutions, Bangladesh created the first climate prosperity plan to enhance resilience and economic growth.
We in Bangladesh have launched a Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. This plan is set to guide our development path through a low-carbon strategy. Other 37 CVF members will likewise develop their own such plans or climate resilience to achieve climate prosperity.
In unprecedented circumstances, we continued to amplify the voices of those at risk from climate change. 1.4 billion most climate-threatened people working together for climate action and justice. The Bangladesh Presidency extends its special thanks to the Government of Ethiopia for 6 years of service as Chair and Troika member of the CVF. Bangladesh also extends thanks and appreciation to further Troika members, the Marshall Islands and all forum nations. We extend full support and our congratulations to Ghana as they assume the presidency of the CVF and V20, 2022 to 2024.
Obviously, it is an excellent video summarizing the key highlights of the last 2 years, indeed under these unprecedented circumstances. And what you saw in the video was the reference to CVF thematic ambassadors, a new construct which we have established, was actually what Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has established. And we'll listen to a video of Her Excellency Saima Wazid, who is the CVF thematic ambassador for vulnerability. And she speaks on behalf of all 5 thematic ambassadors. So let's have a quick look at that video.
Please, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a pleasure for me to be here today for the handover ceremony of the Climate Vulnerable Forum's presidency from Bangladesh to Ghana. As thematic ambassador on vulnerability, I'm addressing you today on behalf of my fellow thematic ambassadors. During Bangladesh's presidency with CVF, we had been appointed for the first time as ambassadors for the forum to advocate and promote action within 5 specific thematic areas, which were ambition, culture, parliaments, renewable energy, and vulnerability. Allow me to recognize the important and valuable work that my fellow CVF thematic ambassadors have been conducting for the last 2 years. And I'd like to take the opportunity to outline some key activities and achievements that they have been able to achieve. His Excellency, Mr. Mohammad Nasheed, former President of the Maldives and Speaker of the People's Majlis, as CVF's thematic ambassador on ambition, championed the midnight survival deadline for the climate initiative, leading to delivery of some 70 updated Paris Agreement NDC commitments by December 31st, 2020. He also campaigned for the Glasgow Climate Pact that was finally adopted by COP26, calling all nations to review the ambition of the NDCs with the Paris 1.5 degrees goal in this year of 2022. His Excellency, Mr. Tosi Panupanu, served as thematic ambassador on renewable energy and forged a new dedicated global capacity program for our members, together with IRENA, to advance on the forum's 100% renewable energy objective. His Excellency Ms. Lauren Legarda of the Senate of the Philippines, thematic ambassador on the parliaments, led efforts together with Bangladesh's national parliament to launch CVF Global Parliamentary Group last year as an entirely new area of international cooperation of parliamentarians of our members in order to strive for experience exchange and promote enabling environments for action. Ms. Kathy Jetnil-Kijner from the Marshall Islands, poet and climate change activist, thematic ambassador on culture, promoted transactional artistic collaboration on climate issues, involving different CVF ambassadors, including the NAT, here known as When Is Now initiative, which calls for stronger climate action throughout participatory transnational poetry writing and dissemination. Finally, in my own capacity as a thematic ambassador on vulnerability, I have promoted efforts to strengthen climate resilience in the areas of health, human rights, displacement, and the workplace. I've been pleased to support CVF's efforts to highlight the psychological and physical repercussions of climate change on health, including through climate prosperity plans programs. I've also been pleased to have supported the successful call for establishing a UN Special Rapporteur on climate change and human rights and bring attention to the needs of vulnerable groups within our communities. In conclusion, I am pleased to state on behalf of the thematic ambassadors our ongoing commitment to continue to work and support the vital effort of the forum as we move on to a presidency and a new era with Ghana. And we wish Ghana every success for this new chapter and look forward to our work and our efforts continuing and progressing over time. Thank you so much.
And congratulations for all the excellent work of all 5 thematic ambassadors indeed. I think what basically determined you and why you're so impactful, because you're all bold, you're all action oriented, and you're all focusing on the here and now, what needs to happen today and not tomorrow. Let us now turn to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who is at the moment traveling. He is in a plane as we speak. He is, as you know, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations. He's also the chairman of the supervisory board of the Global Center on Adaptation. Let's listen to his message.
Nana Akufo-Addo, the President of Ghana, Your Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. Verheugen, CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation, Honorable Ministers, members of Climate Vulnerable Forum, CVF, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to join you today for the CVF handover ceremony. It is with great honor to observe with you the passing of the baton of the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum from Bangladesh to Ghana. I'd like to truly congratulate Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina for her unwavering leadership for the climate cause in chairing the CVF for the past 2 years. Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, under your leadership, the CVF has achieved a great deal. Your role in COP26 has been decisive. Over this time, we have seen results secured for the most vulnerable in the Human Rights Council, at the IMF and World Bank and international finance communities and the IUCN. The voice of the CVF and the V20 has been crucial in these and many other areas. The ambition, courage, and leadership is an example to all. We have also done much working with you at the GCA under the excellent leadership of Dr. Verheugen to advance our common priority agenda of accelerating adaptation to climate change at speed and at scale. We worked hand in hand to secure the doubling pledge of international finance for adaptation, for instance, in Glasgow. The CVF is one of the most vital forums for the future of our planet. I first joined with you in 2011 as UN Secretary General when Prime Minister Hasina, you first held its presidency and convened the CVF in Dhaka. You were the group that fought for a 1.5 degrees Celsius goal to be enshrined in the Paris Climate Change Agreement. And you have been the group that has continued to fight the good fight to keep the world committed to that goal. Time is very short, but fortunately, the CVF continues to grow stronger and stronger in the face of adversity. That gives me hope for the future. I want to also commend Bangladesh on launching the Climate Prosperity Plan program with its first own Mujib plan dedicated to your country's founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. We have to turn the plight of the climate crisis to our advantage. This is exactly the type of strategic approach needed to focus on building resilience and taking advantage of renewable and green actions for the benefit of the most vulnerable people and communities of the world. CVF countries are truly an example to the entire world in climate action. And through the work of this forum, the voice of the most vulnerable are heard loudly throughout the world. I'd also like to extend my warmest congratulations to Ghana on their ascendancy as chair of the CVF. I'm very confident that the CVF will be in safe and able hands. The importance of this moment is clear to His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo, my good friend. I have no doubt that your stewardship, Mr. President, will continue the progresses achieved under the Bangladesh, taking the CVF further in its successes. With the Ghana taking over, we have a great opportunity for linkage with the world's largest adaptation program, the Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program. The largest program to date worldwide, which is fully endorsed by the African Union. Let us work together to deliver that program in full and ensure that all CVF regions benefit from similar programs. I assure you that as a chair of the CVF, Ghana will receive every support possible from its managing partner and secretariat host, the Global Center on Adaptation. Dr. Fair-Kuyen and I will be with you in your important journey. Let us now come together in our support for the most vulnerable at this crucial juncture for people and the planet. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we cannot hear you, Ghana. Please unmute. We are asking our colleagues from Ghana to unmute, please.
As you see, the presidency of Bangladesh and Ghana is already integrated in real time because we are looking at a cultural video of Ghana, and I introduced it as a cultural video of Bangladesh. So I think we're already joining forces from the start, which is great. What I would like to do now is to call upon Minister Shabab Uddin, the Honorable Minister of Environment from Bangladesh to make some short remarks before we go to the leaders. Honourable Minister.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable President, Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, Honorable President of Ghana, Honorable Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General of the United Nations, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I am truly pleased to be here today to address you for the CVF Presidency handover ceremony. Excellency, the climate vulnerable nations of the world are not only leading through their own domestic climate action in mitigation and adaptation, but also driving needed ambition at the global level in these areas. It is up to us to ensure that these losses and damages of climate change is addressed in a global and equitable manner. Distinguished participants, our great leader, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, always spoke up for the neglected, deprived, and miserable people of the world. He took a number of pragmatic initiatives to control environmental pollution, enacted laws and regulations, and emphasized on planting more trees, following the footsteps of Bangabandhu. His daughter, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, has been working tirelessly for environmental development and tackling climate change. Under the able leadership of the Bangladesh Presidency, Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, the CVF has played a critical role in ensuring that climate action is at the top of the international agenda. At COP26, the forum requested a delivery plan for the annual $100 billion in climate finance and secured a doubling of finance for climate adaptation by 2025. We also welcome 7 new members into the CVF, bringing the coalition to a total of 55 nations. Bangladesh, as a chair of the CVF, has also served to bring together the climate vulnerable countries to advocate and negotiate for equitable and ambitious climate action. We must also ensure that developing countries have access to adequate levels of climate finance to implement our climate commitments in mitigation and adaptation. To conclude my remarks, first, I would like to congratulate Ghana on their selection as chair of the CVF. I am assured that their leadership of the CVF will be strong and committed. We look forward to working with the Ghana presidency to achieve CVF priority. Secondly, we, as the most vulnerable nations, must continue to push for more financing for adaptation measures on par with those of mitigation. We need support to ensure the resilience of our nations in the face of increased drought, flood, sea level rise, and extreme weather events. Finally, I urge all of you to continue working towards strong, robust, and ambitious climate action. Our children and future generations will look back upon and grade us based on the decision we make today. Our collective future and the future of our next generation hung in the balance. Thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you so much indeed, Honorable Minister, for also reminding us that the CVF is not a talk shop. It's not another convening of a convening of a convening. It is delivering on commitments, delivering on action, delivering on commitments being made, including in Glasgow, indeed. So thank you very much for your strong words, sir. I introduced the cultural video of Bangladesh, which we couldn't show, but I do want to give the opportunity to our technological friends to show that video now, please.
দেখে মল্লিকা বোঝে এ দেশকে ভালোবাসতে হলে এ পৃথিবীকে ভালোবাসতে হলে আমাদের যেতে হবে প্রকৃতির কাছে প্রকৃতিকে ভালোবাসতে হবে তবেই বাঁচবে এ পৃথিবী বাঁচব আমরা চলুন তবে ফিরে যাই আমরা প্রকৃতির কাছে প্রকৃতির রং রূপ ভালোবেসে নিজেরা রঙিন হয়ে উঠি
প্রজাপতি দোলে ঘাসে ঘাসে মেনু বনু মরমরে দক্ষিণ বাতাসে প্রজাপতি দোলে ঘাসে ঘাসে মৌমাছি ফিরে যাচ্ছে ফুলের দক্ষিণা পাখায় বাজায় তার ভিখারির বীণা মৌমাছি ফিরে যাচ্ছে ফুলের দক্ষিণা পাখায় বাজায় তার ভিখারির বীণা মাধবী বিতানে বায়ু গন্ধে বিভুল দ্বার খোল ওরে গৃহবাসী ফুলদার খোল লাগলো যে দোল স্থলে জলে
That was excellent indeed. Thank you so much, colleagues and friends from Bangladesh, and showing this very impressive culture performance, basically linking nature and people and livelihoods. Let us now go to the heart of the matter, Mr. President and Honorable Prime Minister. And Mr. President, I saw you speaking yesterday at the opening of the annual meeting of the African Development Bank, where you were very explicit. It's about our youth. It's about jobs. It's about prosperity and growth. That's what this agenda is about. That's why I'm delighted now to also have with us today a national award-winning Ghanaian, because that's what you are, youth environmental advocate and ambassador, Nakiat San, to address both leaders. Nakiat, please.
His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Owo edan onyankopon titi odumankoma apirina. Etwere no da osande. Onyankopon oboate. Bor paase. Onyankopon titi. Ofititi odumankoma. Nana nyankopon shirao. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana Omampeni, Obumankoma, Odapijan, Osun, Ya Asantwa, Okonfa Anochi, Ndoranjapa, Nana Nina Taweji, Wataweji ma ape ashishe nzipa ama aye binti na wafro aye boafo. When the wait is long, you are strong. When the rays of the sun are breaking through the clouds, and the birds are singing out loud, and while the rainbow appears and spreads all around you, they are throwing colors for you. Sanze, edin kunyim dato. Ezin kunyim ama womana odawa komado. For you never give up on something that is important for your people. For your fighting spirit is possessed only by a few. You are a warrior. His Excellency, you fight to achieve your dreams. Fight for success is near. I see you stand tall like the mighty oak. Your strength and energy amazes us all, for your branches spans the sky. His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, you are a connoisseur of climate issues and a lover of the environment and its preservation. The world has recognized your efforts. Your Greening Ghana initiative, which is in tandem with the Sustainable Development Goals. His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ayebi, Nyami Inshuro, Ayaze Papa. Oh, you also have brought into Ghana the CVF, the Climate Vulnerability Forum, to combat the consequences of climate change in Ghana, in Africa, and in the world. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, and Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Speak, for your people are all ears. Speak, for your people are listening. I have this special song for you. His Excellency, O free tita yengono. His Excellency, O free tita yengono. Adana obimbo sonshre. Ayebi nyami inshro. Medahum nina ase.
very passionate plea for leadership today, so for a better tomorrow. Come to the moment of truth in this meeting, listening to our leaders. And I would like to turn now to Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, recognizing, acknowledging that, Madam Prime Minister, without your engagement and your leadership, there would not have been a 1.5-degree target in the Paris Agreement. And Honorable Prime Minister, without your leadership and direct engagement, there would not be a climate prosperity plan. So I'm extraordinarily humbled and privileged of giving you the floor. Madam Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. And also thank you, Ms. Lafgar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable President, Excellencies, dear friends and colleagues. Assalamu alaikum. Bangladesh took over the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, CVF, in 2020 for the second time. We managed to steer the forum's work through the COVID-19 pandemic. We feel relieved that we could achieve most of our objectives and more. It is with great pleasure Bangladesh passes on the CVF presidency to Ghana. I thank President Nana Akufo-Addo for his kind presence on this occasion. CVF is now a significant presence in the international climate setting. It has emerged as the legitimate voice for countries most affected by climate change. The rise of CVF membership is a proof of that. From the outset, our presidency remained focused on COP26 outcomes. Despite the pandemic, we held the world's attention to the climate crisis. We launched the midnight survival deadline for countries to raise their climate ambitions. We urged them to submit their NDCs by 31st December 2020. Some 17 nations responded to our call. We also created the CVF V20 Joint Multi-Donor Fund to support members in their climate action. Bangladesh and Marshall Islands provided the seed funding. In 2021, we held the Climate Vulnerable Finance Summit. It presented for a delivery plan for the $100 billion climate finance in the next 5 years. We got it realized in Glasgow. The Dhaka-Glasgow Declaration is a summary of CVF's core demand and commitment. We renewed our call for high-emitting countries to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius pledge alive and raise their climate ambition annually. We secured commitment for increased adaptation financing and international dialogue on loss and damage. We are proud of the work done by our 5 thematic ambassadors appointed during our term. We have high hopes from the mandate holder for climate change and human rights. We shall maintain our advocacy on displacement and migration caused by climate change. The CVF V20 parliamentary group has a critical role to play in building public opinion for climate action. I believe our presidency's most important legacy will be to shift the narrative from climate vulnerability to resilience and prosperity. In Bangladesh, we are developing our Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. We believe it can provide a template for other vulnerable countries in our own context. I'm confident that CVF leadership will be in steady hands under President Akufo-Addo's watch. As a member of the Troika, Bangladesh will continue to extend all necessary cooperation to Ghana. I fondly recall my personal engagement with the late Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General. I am sure he would have been happy to see this connection through CVF between Bangladesh and Ghana. We are extremely grateful to CVF and CGS Secretariat for their tireless work during our presidency. We acknowledge the trust reposed on us by our Troika members, Ethiopia and Marshall Islands. We owe it to the COP26 presidency for giving sufficient space to CBA. I appreciate the role played by my cabinet colleagues and their respective ministers. I also recognize the support given by some of our members of parliament and academic experts. I thank the particular my CVF especially envoy for a job well done. I also thank former Secretary General of UN Ban Ki-moon for his role. And he is giving us importance, and also he is acting very pragmatic role, especially for CVF countries. So especially I thank him. Excellencies, 1.5 billion people in CVF member countries are faced with climate emergencies. Despite the ongoing geopolitical tension, we cannot allow the world to take away its attention from the looming climate crisis. The developed countries must deliver on their commitments on financing and technology under the Paris Agreement. Under Ghana's leadership, we shall continue to press for our unmet demands with CVF trademark, moral force, and reasoned arguments. Let us do one thing. We offer our president for the future of our young generation, for future of our forthcoming people, children. They should get a better life, save life. So we sacrifice our present for the future generation. I wish the Ghana presidency all success. Thank you very much. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangla.
Thank you so much, Honorable Prime Minister, for your very strong words, and in fact also for your very strong leadership over the last 2 years during your second term of chairperson of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. Madam Prime Minister, may I now invite you to hand over ceremonially the chairmanship to Mr. President, please.
Thank you, it's my honor. Your Excellency, President Akufo-Addo, I have the pleasure of handing over the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum from the People's Republic of Bangladesh to the Republic of Ghana. I wish you all success.
So, Mr. President, or in fact, I should say, Mr. Chairman of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, congratulations in this very important endeavor. Before this, I want to already start thanking you on behalf of the global community, because I have seen you in action in Glasgow last year, November, during the COP, where you were part of the Africa Adaptation Summit meeting, and where in essence you said, we in Africa, we are tired of waiting. We need to act, and we need to act now. And as a consequence, you launched with your fellow leaders the largest adaptation program to date, the Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program, AAAP, $25 billion over 5 years. And because of your efforts, Mr. President, the global community has committed, has promised to double adaptation finance, including for the African continent. And I think it's now fair to say that the global community now has to deliver on that commitment and has to deliver during your presidency. So please, on behalf of the Global Center on Adaptation as the Secretariat to the Climate Vulnerable Forum, we're fully behind you. See us as your partner of choice during your endeavor. An honor, sir. The floor is yours. We're very keen for your opening words.
So, Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I must at the outset congratulate the People's Republic of Bangladesh, and in particular, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, for the leadership that has been demonstrated these past 2 years on the vexed issue of climate, global climate. Your successes in leading the Climate Vulnerable Forum and V20 are a credit to Bangladesh and represent a service done to all vulnerable nations. Ghana is indeed honored to take up the mantle of chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum and will do all she can in defense of the world's most climate-threatened nations. Excellencies, climate change is perhaps the biggest threat to the realization of the SDGs. It has become an issue of grave concern to leaders across the world, especially for those of us classified as vulnerable nations, as it has considerable impact on the fundamentals required for our survival on Earth. For the sake of our and succeeding generations, we have a solemn duty to take immediate, bold, and concrete steps to protect global climate from warming beyond unbearable limits. It is for this reason that Ghana will follow in the footsteps of the CVF's previous presidents in being a voice for the voiceless. As chair of the CVF, Ghana will pursue the call for major emitters to strengthen their 2030 mitigation targets in order to bring the 1.5-degree Celsius target, on which our survival depends, within reach. We'll also make the increment of adaptation financing a major priority, as well as unlock the loss and damage fund to provide compensation to vulnerable developing countries for the losses and damages that they face as a result of climate impacts. Ghana welcomes engagement of the CVF thematic ambassadors and expresses her appreciation to Ambassador Saima for her report on the ambassador's important activities. We intend to advance this work by establishing the first ever youth program of the CVF and to appoint a youth ambassador for the CVF during Ghana's presidency. Not only will we work to help make the CVF Global Parliamentary Group's Charter a reality, but we'll also expand CVF membership, particularly in Africa. When Ghana takes over the presidency of the V20 Ministers of Finance of the CVF later this year, we will continue to champion all this V20's group's key priorities on unlocking finance for climate action, reducing the financial protection gap, and working for an international financial system that is fit for purpose to fight the climate crisis. Bangladesh has created a climate prosperity plan. We will take forward this important program. We plan to take climate actions that are bold and make sense for our development as we seek to emerge prosperous. We'll begin work expeditiously on our own ambitious climate prosperity plan. We call on all partners in the global community to lend full support to this development, as well as the realization of our vulnerable nations' valiant efforts to develop prosperity plans. We cannot fail in this noble endeavor, as success is the greatest inheritance that we can leave for the current and future generations. Ghana will do its part to help realize this goal. And once again, thanks Bangladesh and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for the work that they have done on our collective behalves. I thank you for your attention.
Mr. President, and again, congratulations in your new role as chairperson of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. And as you said, we cannot fail. We cannot wait either. The journey ahead might be difficult, but difficult is not impossible. So on that note, I think it's a very strong statement which you made, and very keen to support you during your presidency, Excellency. Also, we're very much looking forward to welcoming you to the Netherlands on September 5, where you will co-chair the largest African Leaders Summit on adaptation to date, alongside Chairperson Ban Ki-moon at our floating office in the Netherlands. So it's in Rotterdam indeed, and we're very humbled for you traveling to the Netherlands on that occasion. We have come to the end of this handover ceremony, and as I said in the beginning, in essence, it's not a handover ceremony, it's a joining of forces, joining of hands. That's what this meeting is about. So, Honorable Minister, we've met recently where we jointly launched the roadmap for resilient infrastructure for Ghana, and then you said, this roadmap is good, but roadmaps needs to be implemented. That's the litmus test of any roadmap or any document. So, Honorable Minister, the closing remarks are yours. The vote of thanks are yours, sir. Please.
Thank you. It's my distinct honor to express sincere thanks to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for his esteemed presence and leadership, and for hosting this important event. And then, of course, to Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, for her successful conclusion to the presidency and tenure of this forum, the CVF. And to His Excellency, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General, to Professor Patrick Vekoye, I hope I've gotten the correct pronunciation, CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation, for your encouragement and support for this event and the works of CVF, together with the CVF secretarial team for their robust engagement. Our special thanks also go to my honorable colleagues and ministers of Foreign Affairs and Environment of the CVF Tracker. Thanks to Her Excellency Saima Wazir and the CVF thematic ambassadors and the Bangladesh Special Envoy. Again, our thanks to Ms. Nafayat Abdulrahman Sam, our youth ambassador, for her voice to these proceedings. And then, Nakia, okay, thanks so much for the correction, Madam. Yeah. And finally, I thank the Ghana CVF Presidency Coordination Team for all their efforts in organizing this commencement event for our leadership of this important forum. May God bless all our efforts within the CVF. And if I may lapse into my native dialect, I will say, I thank you all. May God bless us all.
So much, Honorable Minister, for this vote of thanks and also closing statements, which indeed brings this ceremony to an end. I think today marks a new beginning of the Climate Global Forum, a new chapter of this very important journey. And Mr. President and Honorable Prime Minister, I thank you for your time and dedication. Let us get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Such an honor, sir, to meet you. Good, good, good. Can I have take a picture of you? Yes, please.